Not sure what sort of stuff you enjoy reading, but this one's kind of a strange haunting. My house has always been creepy. Growing up, I had lots of unexplained experiences ever since the time I was 4. I live in rural Kentucky, one of those towns that relies solely on coal and is 5 years behind the rest of the world. In general, the whole town is still covered in thick woods that appear to have not been tampered with in hundreds of years. My house is placed right in the middle of the mountains, surrounded by an extreme amount of woods and even a couple of ponds. That gives you the setting for my home. This is where the real story begins. Growing up, I was never allowed to watch weird shows or movies like Ghost Hunters or The Exorcist because of all the weird activity that went on in our house. Like I said, I experienced it from an extremely young age, and so has my mom, who has lived in this house her whole life. However, one night my family made an exception, and we all watched a documentary about Waverly Hills together. At that age, I still slept in the room with my mom because I was so afraid of that house. That night, I woke up at 3 a.m. to the feeling of something watching me. I felt extremely uneasy. I rolled over to look around the room, and my eyes locked onto something standing beside my mom. It was extremely tall, but looked as if it had a broken back and couldn't stand up completely. It was slouched over. Its skin was extremely pale, and I could see the bones sticking out under the skin. It had long claws on both hands. Its face was sunken in, and its eyes were just black holes. It had no clothes, but also no genitals or nipples. I was horrified. I rolled over and covered myself up head to toe with the cover. I refused to move or look out the rest of the night, even though I was fully awake. Eventually, my mom woke up, and she immediately started complaining of her side hurting. She raised her shirt, and we found huge claw marks down her side. It was 3 deep wounds, which were extremely inflamed and still bleeding. I felt horrible knowing that thing did that to her while I lay beside doing nothing. A couple months later, I saw the creature again, although it wasn't as horrible as the first experience. I woke up to the creature slouched on the floor on my side of the bed. It was watching me sleep. I covered myself up again immediately, but this time I got the courage to peek out and found it still looking at me. I'm not sure when it went away because I didn't dare look again. I got chills and my hair stood on end even before even seeing it the first time. It had the feeling of complete evil to it. I'm 18 now and obviously sleep in my own room now. However, I still live in the same house. My mom still sleeps in the room where I witnessed this creature. Almost nightly, she has nightmares about something watching her. She has nightmares about something hiding in the paintings on her walls or something coming from the ceiling in her room while she sleeps. There's one specific corner of the room where almost every dream seems to originate. Our cats refuse to stay in that room if the door is shut. If anyone has any information about any folklore this could relate to, please tell me. I'm desperate for any information about what I saw. I've had countless other experiences in this house, but those are the major ones.
I was going to make a new thread, but checked the catalog first. This happened about 2 hours ago. I live in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Visiting my grandpa who lives out past the mountains. Small town up here called Moriarty, he lives up past that. South of 5th Street for about 20 minutes if you want to check a map. Just hanging out with my grandpa because he lives alone after my grandpa died. Drinking a beer, fond memories of childhood. He tells me he is feeling tired and I can go now if I want. When Thiskady sits going to suck dick.jpg. Leave the house and walk to my car. It is about a 200-foot walk. Totally lost in thought, thinking about my grandpa's war stories. Suddenly it gets colder, a shit ton colder. Literally think to myself, am I in a fucking movie, haha? Trying to play it cool. Get in my car, it is a shitty 04 V6 Mustang. Have to put car in neutral before starting it or it will not come out of park. Start car, pull headlight button. Look up. On the fence that surrounds the property, about 30 feet from the front of my car. A figure is sitting with both its feet on a post, holding what looks to be a small creature in both its hands. Humanoid, It is facing diagonally away from me. That is how I saw what it is holding. It turns to me, has a beak, visible blood dripping from its mouth. It is eating something. Fully understand, freezing in panic for the first time. Heart is stopped, hands gripping steering wheel. Its shiny eyes judge me for a moment. It drops what it is holding and charges my car. Human shape, normal arms and legs, beak getting closer. Punch car in reverse, power slide out of the property like a fucking action movie. Doing 60, 65 down a dirt road with posted speed of 20. Glance in rearview mirror, had been avoiding looking because I am a little bitch. I am losing it, inwardly celebrate. It jumps into the air and flies. It has fucking wings. Looks like bat wings. Slow down, make left onto 5th Street. Shitty car starts vibrating at 95 miles per hour because U-joints are trashed. Finally back right window is down. That is why it has been so loud, I must have left it down and forgotten. Make it into town in about 8 minutes. Turn left onto main road in town. Few cars out, feel a little safer. Suddenly, red and blue lights behind me. Fuck. Get pulled over, cop takes her sweet ass fucking time. Driver window down, hands on steering wheel. Officer comes over, asks me if I have any firearms, etc. etc. Asks me why she saw me fly into town like 007. Tell her a flying creature was chasing me. Fuck, now I sound crazy. I tried to play it off all cool. She immediately buzzes, thanks me. Says similar calls and incidents have occurred recently. At least it did not take your baby like the other lady said. Tells me to not go into country alone, have a good night. Still got a fucking warning on my license. I am at home, in Albuquerque, terrified out of my fucking mind. Don't want to talk about it. No postings on local news or police pages about it. I am shaking while typing this like a child.
I was through hiking the Appalachian Trail last year when I got lost and found myself off the trail in a strange, dark hollow with heavy moss and one running stream. It was getting dark and starting to rain. I found a cave just above the creek bed, and there were no bear tracks, so I went in for shelter. Sometime in the night, a bear did come right into the cave, and I had no way out. Keeping my head, I crawled deeper into the cave and found a passage too small for the bear to fit. It led to a long crawlway ending in a little alcove. I had no light and was terrified, but the sound of the bear in the bigger room faded away. This new room was cozy, with what felt like mounds of soft moss and crackly leaves all over the floor. A breeze blew through, and the leaves, though I couldn't see them, seemed to move all over. They tickled me all night long, making it hard to sleep. The next morning, I crept back out to see if the bear was gone. He was. So I exited back into the hollow. I had a terrible rash all over my body from the itchy bedding I had slept on, and couldn't stop scratching as I gathered my stuff and went down the creek looking for a road and some directions back to the trail. I found another trail along the creek, and in a few hours, it ended at a dirt road. There I rested, trying to decide which way to walk for help. My skin was bleeding in spots now, and pustules were forming at the itchiest places. I thought I might need some cream or something. A game warden jeep came around the bend, and when the warden saw me sitting at the trailhead, he stopped. "You planning on going up there?" he asked, gesturing up the trail I had come down. "No, actually," I began, but the itching on my skin made me stop short to scratch. "I wouldn't if I were you, especially that cave." "Why?" I asked. "They call it Spider's Nest Cave."
I wish I could have freaky experiences in the woods. Here's the closest thing I came to. I was young, maybe about 8 years old, and I was camping with my family. My parents didn't want me walking off on my own, but eventually I did it anyway when they weren't looking. While I was walking, I came though this strange pathway where the trees sort of curved toward me. It creeped me out, but I kept going. Eventually the path came out into this weird place. It was covered with sand, and there was a gigantic lake near the end of this long field of sand. The lake looked like it went past the horizon, and the sun was just perfectly setting on the water. I got this weird feeling, kind of like I might have just died and gone to heaven. I decided that I should go back. By the time I got back it was dark and my parents were worried sick about me. They said I was gone for 4 hours, which was way longer than I thought. To this day I wonder if maybe that was some weird near-death experience. I always think about going back to that beach, but I could never remember the way. I can't find a picture that could even remotely show the scene.
Well, it seems that there's interest in creatures generally in this thread, so I'll share a skinwalker story this older gentleman shared. For those of you familiar with them, you'll recall that skinwalkers often appear as men with glowing eyes. My cousins and I liked to hang out in our grandmother's land. It was a wooded area right next to Big Red Bluffs. Plenty of good hiking trails and a great view of the surrounding land up at the peak. It was quite beautiful. One evening, we got back to our grandmother's house after a great day of hiking and exploring the land. My cousins were sleeping over and we had the house to ourselves. Sometime after sunset, the dogs started to bark outside and they wouldn't stop. Now, growing up as a kid on the rural part of the reservation, you'd always hear stories about people seeing something out in the woods, but it never bothered me because I had never seen anything myself. We began to feel like we were being watched, and we decided to investigate. We went outside and saw all of the dogs take off running in one direction. We heard sounds in the distance, branches snapping loudly in the woods, somebody making bird calls and whistling. Like I said, we were alone without any adult supervision, so we got a little freaked out. My grandpa's house was nearby, so we ran there to tell him what we had seen and heard. He wasn't scared of anything. He calmly turned off his TV and told us to get inside and to not be scared because they can feel fear. So he goes outside alone, walking around his property. Everything was really quiet. Then we heard a knock on the wall followed by a loud pounding. We all ran outside and saw a man standing out there some distance away with long hair and red eyes. My grandfather was in his vehicle and he yelled at me to hop in. He told the rest of my cousins to stay inside and guard the house. My grandfather and I took off chasing after this man with red eyes. He ran so fast that we had trouble keeping up even in the vehicle. I couldn't believe how fast he was moving. We chased him through the trees, bouncing through the hills until we had to come to a stop. We reached the edge of a large arroyo, about 20 feet wide maybe. This man jumped the entire distance and landed on the other side. Then he just vanished. My grandpa drove back to the house and sat us all down inside. He told us not to worry, that the strange man was gone. He told us that these creatures, or whatever they are said to be shapeshifters. They are evil medicine men who have the power to shapeshift and curse people. They are known to be able to run at very high speeds. As I've gotten older, I know this place has many secrets and stories. I still love the land around my grandmother's house, but I can see that there's a different side to it, and I think it should be further investigated spirituality and physically. Thank you for letting me share.
Erase a short green text. In Sierra Nevada, at about 11,000 feet or so, decide to hike off trail just because I'm familiar with the area and want to see the view from atop a nearby ridge. Hike in about an hour or so. Up high, the trees are all ancient, gnarled foxtail pines. Some are thousands of years old. Chewing gum. At moments get these weird foreboding thoughts. No one knows where you are right now. You could just fall into the earth. There may be things out here that we don't know about that can just grab your ass. Sit down in little clearing and eat an MRE. Be little asshole and decide to stick the gum in a crack of one of these trees. Slight buzzing starts. Grows louder. Louder still. Begin shitting a fucking brick. The buzzing is increasing in intensity so much that it feels like my body is shaking. Grows stronger still. Look around me. Realize I'm inside of a ring of 5 or 6 ancient gnarled trees, or maybe one huge clonal tree. The buzzing is so intense now it fills me with dread. Eyes well up with tears. Sprint all the way down that ridge until I'm back on the trail. Never been so scared in my life. It's truly a weird feeling when you have a gun on you, but feel like it doesn't even matter, like it's useless. Part of me now feels like ancient trees are some sort of entity or something, like they are all linked through their roots and have developed a type of consciousness or some shit. The whole time I was running down the ridge my mind was screaming, "You pissed off the fucking trees. Sorry trees."
13 years old, 12 years ago, before cell phones and internet, I was out wrecking shit on my four-wheeler in Backwoods, Arkansas. 1 mile near border of Oklahoma, searching for places to sneak out and throw parties. Bonfire Sandboos fuck ya, JPG. Old logging roads galore, free to explore, about an HR of taking random rights and lefts. I come to a turnaround. No big deal. These are perfect spots for the party. Jump off my wheeler to check this shit out. Something is different. There are visible trails leading to the woods. They look fresh. I decide to take a peek. Usually there is just a clearing where the loggers parked their trucks while they were in the job. Walk back into the tree line following the trail, and there is one of the creepiest things I've seen in my life. It was a huge altar made out of bones. Dried blood all over it. I look down and there is chunks of bone all over the ground. No fur anywhere, so what kind of bones they are? What the motherfuck? Keep looking around and there is camouflage nets set up. Walk to the other side of the nets and there are 8 cots with sleeping bags and a fire pit, shitloads of cans and bags of trash. Nope. JPG. Start to feel like someone is watching me. Hear things moving in the trees all around me. I shit my pants and ran to my four-wheeler and hopped on. Drove in 4th gear all the way home. I don't even know how I made it out of there without getting lost. I barely remember. Told my grandpa what happened. He gets pissed. Tells me never to go over onto that section again. I didn't argue.
I live in Arkansas. Here's a story I heard from my great-grandpa. Around 1910, 1920. Shit town is just getting settled, probably around 50, 60 people spread around 10 miles. Grandpa is 10 and has a huge family because Irish. All of the kids sleep in the same room. One day his little sister wakes him up at like midnight and tells him there's a rabbit looking through the window at her. He goes and looks. It's a white rabbit, it just sits completely still outside and watches little sister. Think nothing of it. Rabbit keeps showing up at night, all it does is stare through window at lil sis. She's starting to get weaker and is getting sick more often. Granddaddy finally gets the shotgun, waits for the rabbit to show up, and shoots it. It loses a paw and somehow gets away. Here's the fucked up part, though. They have a neighbor who lives higher up the ridge, fairly close given population density. Old bitch, a widow who only comes down to get groceries. Nobody in town cares much about her. Anyway, day after this happens, family sees the doctor heading up the road to the old bitch's house. Great-great-grandma asks what happens because that's a rural thing. Doctor says old woman had some kind of shit sent down about having a hunting accident. Shot off her hand. Granddaddy's face went.
Since we're on the topic of scouts and camping, I have a kinda spoopy, but not supernatural story from when I went camping as a kid. I was going camping with my uncle's family and some friends. It was me, their son and daughter, my cousins obviously, and 2 mutual friends of school, all of us 10 to 14. The plan was to stay for a week over the summer, but things got called short after a couple days. I mostly hated the idea, but my parents wanted me to get some fresh air. We got up in the mountains. My allergies were killing me. I was covered in mosquito bites, and frankly I would rather being playing Diamond and Pearl at home. Tells you how old this story is. We spend the day hiking and stop at a campsite to set up the tents, the girl with my aunt and uncle and all the boys together. None of us can sleep, so we just flare up out flashlights and talk about bullshit for a few hours until we wear ourselves out. Topic comes to scary stories and my cousin tells us a doozy. Apparently the town nearby had a killer that's disappeared in these woods a few years ago. He tells us he was a disgruntled husband who had to work 2 jobs to support his family. He apparently got fired and came home to see his wife cheating on him with some dude. He snaps and grabs an axe from outside, kills his wife, the guy she was cheating on him with, and their 5 kids before vanishing into the woods. He tells us that he's still running around the mountains killing any woman or kid he sees. It was a creepy story, but all of us, I think, knew it was bullshit. We eventually tire ourselves out talking about whatever dumb shit kids like and go to sleep. Next day rolls around and we start hiking again. My aunt and uncle stopped to film shit or something. I think they were into making wildlife/nature videos as a hobby or something like that. I can't remember. All of us just kind of wander off while they're filming because kids are stupid. Little cousin says she needs to pee. Trip ends for obvious reasons, and we all go back home that night. 99% sure that skeleton was unrelated to the bullshit story my cousin told me, but still, I remember that standing out to me when I was a kid.
Alright, this happened to me a few days ago, but it unnerved me so much that I haven't given it much thought until now, and I was immediately struck by the resemblance my encounter has with the skinwalker stories I've read here on /x/. So I figured I may as well type this shit up and see what you guys have to say about it. First and foremost, I'd like to note that I'm an introverted 23-year-old living in Ohio who's bordering on becoming a shut-in, but I have this one friend from high school who, much to her credit, hasn't given up on me yet. She's dating this guy who got her into vintage cars, and she's going through this big rockabilly phase which I don't personally care for, which is why I'd declined her previous invitations to attend local car shows. But this past Saturday I gave in. I'll call her E for anonymity's sake, and her boyfriend shall be J. Now, I was a little nervous getting a ride out there with them because I didn't want to get left behind for one reason or another, but I also didn't want to take my own car for fear of getting lost out in the rural parts of Ohio. It's easy to lose track of a specific vehicle in a crowd, and I'm terrible with directions, so I figured the best option was to climb in the back of JS' old remodeled truck. We drove for what seemed like hours, and, just as I'd suspected, we ended up in what was basically the middle of nowhere. The car show was being held on a large expanse of field that was only really accessible through a thin stretch of road that looked like it was more suited for tractors than old racing cars. As we pulled up and I took in the layout of this exhibition, I was none too impressed, but I couldn't tell you that. Plus, for better or worse, I was stuck there until they were ready to go, so I had to either make the best of it or be miserable for the whole day. Skipping to the meat of the story. I'll just say that I got bored of the seemingly endless rows of cars pretty fast, and as dusk approached I was hopeful that we would soon be leaving, but my hopes were thoroughly crushed when an impromptu bonfire was assembled. Feeling exhausted at this point and wishing that I hadn't come, I took a seat on a picnic table that was situated on this block of concrete a bit away from where all the vintage cars were parked. I was bored out of my mind as I listened to the men drunkenly talk about parts and tools, as if they hadn't done enough of that in the daylight. And by chance I happened to catch some guy staring at me through the crowd. I remember being a little unnerved by the intensity of his gaze, but I brushed it off, thinking he was either going to cause trouble or he was high on shrooms. Either way, I diverted my attention elsewhere, and I sort of forgot about the guy as I thought about what I could have been doing at home on the computer in that moment. Minutes passed when I felt someone slide onto the bench beside me, and I offhandedly glanced over, expecting whoever it was to be oblivious to my presence, much like everyone else at this little shindig. But much to my surprise, the person was staring at me dead on. I jumped and reared back, more than ready to berate him for scaring the crap out of me, when it clicked in my head. This was the guy who'd been staring at me from the other side of the crowd, and just like before, he was staring so hard at me that it freaked me right the fuck out. Being who I am though, I tried to play it off. Smiled and said something like, "Hey, how's it going?" He didn't respond, only continued to stare at me, and the longer I looked at him the more I realized that something was off. Despite how intensely his eyes were locked on me, the muscles in his face seemed slack. His jaw wasn't really sitting right in his mouth, and his arms were limply sprawled across his lap like he'd just let them fall as they may when he sat down next to me and hadn't bothered to readjust them. I was really unnerved by this point, and just when I was about to excuse myself, he did something I don't think I'll ever be able to forget. Without anything else changing in his facial expression, his lips started to curl upwards. It was a slow process, and I could actually see the muscles tensing and straining in his cheeks as his lips gradually moved higher and higher until, I now realize with startling clarity, he was giving me the exact same smile I'd given him not too long ago. But it didn't stop there. They kept moving further up until I could see his gums, and his lips were stretched thin and white. It was only then that I smelled it, some horrible stench like a dead dog that had crawled up straight out of hell. I didn't even bother with pleasantries as I quickly stood up and moved away from him. At the time, I thought maybe he was just some whacked out loser, but looking back on it I see all kinds of similarities with what I've heard concerning skinwalkers. It's probably a really good thing that this thought didn't cross my mind at the time, because otherwise I don't think I could have handled what happened next. So, I went looking for my friend and her boyfriend through the crowd, intent on telling them that we had to leave and I wasn't going to take no for an answer. I finally found her and I tell her what happened. Of course she tries to say it was probably some guy who was just tripping out, and if I stay with her and Jay I should be fine. I told her that wasn't going to work for me and that I really needed to leave. I could tell that they were really disappointed, but much to my relief they gave in. They bid their farewells, though it was far from fast enough for me, and we walked across the dark field to his truck. We get in and start driving away. I actually thought I was home free in that moment, but as it turns out I seem to have really bad luck. Just as we go to pull out onto that thin road, something stumbles into the headlights. Sure, I was ready to start screaming my lungs off in the blink of an eye, but I calmed down when I saw it was a woman, until that as she lifted her head, looked straight through the windshield at me, and her lips started to slowly curl upwards. I was ready to have a panic attack at this point as I gripped the back of his seat and I told Jay to just drive. Despite the panic that was no doubt in my voice, he didn't understand and said that he was just going to see if she was alright. He rolled down the window and stuck his head out, asking her if she was okay. Her head bobbed up and down sort of like a bobblehead's, but she didn't say anything. She was still smiling, and I watched in terror as Jay exchanged a look with E before leaning out the window again and asking her if she wanted a ride back into town, name omitted for anonymity's sake. And she nodded the same as before, almost like most of the tendons in her neck were cut or something. I'm sure you can imagine at this point the horror racing through my veins, though I didn't understand it at the time, and then double that as you think about watching this strange person slowly walk around to the driver's side passenger door, pull the creaky door open and weakly climb in to sit next to you on the back seat. Yeah, I was ready to piss my pants. I'm actually surprised I didn't throw up from how scared I was. Well, we started driving again and I pushed myself as far into the Comer as I could without ever taking my eye off her, but much to my surprise she never even looked at me. She spent the entire ride looking down at her lap, and I was seriously starting to question how long we were going to keep her in the car with us, seeing as she hadn't specified where she needed to be dropped off at. But as we were passing a house on a back road right near the city limits, she suddenly spoke. Just one word. Here. But it wasn't the English language as we know it, it was more like a croak that sounded like the word here, and it turned my blood to pure ice. Jay was confused but did pull over to let her out. Ever the gentleman, he asked if she was really okay being let out here, and she climbed out, turned to look at him in the driver's window and nodded like a damn bobblehead again. Jay and E bid their farewells, and it was only for a split second, but I swear I saw her lips start to curl upwards again, and then she spun around and seamlessly disappeared into the darkness. The two lovebirds up front agreed that the situation seemed a bit strange, and I didn't even try to tell them the truth. Mainly because I don't know what the truth was. After I was dropped off at home, I turned on every light in the house before locking myself in my room, which is how I've been sleeping since then. The entire thing just really scared the crap out of me, and now that I'm seeing the skinwalker connections, I'm even more unnerved by the memory. I haven't seen either of those people since that night, but I've only really left the house for work because I'm still really paranoid about the whole thing. Was it drugs? A coincidence? I honestly don't think I want to know.
A Texas Story Part 1. Now, reading this thread made me remember about something that happened to my family. This story took place in the early 80s, before I was born. Heard it from my cousin, who confessed it to me while telling me other stuff. Bear with me, I don't know what was encountered with skinwalkers, a goatman, or something else. Anyway, here I go. My family used to own several acres of mountain in South Texas. Not Rocky Mountain kind of mountains, but a nice little size and area. No more than a couple 100 feet above land. Beautiful, lovely piece of property worth a lot of money now, had the family not sold it years prior for no other reason other than just to get money. My father and uncles built a cabin on the property over several years during the 60s and 70s. Had rudimentary plumbing and electricity, as best as you could get being miles away from civilization. The family tried getting to there to vacation a couple times a year, but with the men all being truck drivers on the road for long hours, Their schedules seldom synced. They went when they went. The area was surrounded by some forest, had some critters and wildlife, but it had no spooky legends associated with it. And my family had visited the area on a regularly basis. They didn't really encounter anyone outside of some campers who were usually at the bottom of the mountains, maybe a hunter or two. Most of their vacation was spent with the cousins, being children, playing and hanging out. The women, my aunts, gossiped and cooked, and the men, my uncles, and usually a couple older male cousins, sat back and drank. Typical Mexican-American family, LOL. A Texas Story Part 2. One particular evening that all changed. It was my eldest uncle, his son who was an adult, our other cousins, and two of my aunts. They did what I described in my first part. The men were outside drinking, while the kids were inside with the women. Suddenly, they heard a woman scream. It surprised the hell out of my uncle and my cousin. They were genuinely concerned when they heard it again, that some camper or someone may have strayed too far from wherever it is that they were coming from and got hurt trying to climb the rocky terrain on a moonless night. So they take their flashlights and charge forward. When they go into the forest area, the scream stops. My uncle yells out, asking if someone needs help. The person didn't respond. My cousin shined his light over an area, and when it passed, the screaming started again. Only this time the scream wasn't far away, it was closer. To them, it sounded like a woman was being raped and murdered. Their first idea was, let's go back to the cabin and go get our shotguns. When they started walking away, they heard a second scream accompany the first scream, except this scream was closer than the first and came at them from the side. They thought they saw someone move in the forest, too fast for their lights. So they run back to the cabin, and by then, there is a third and fourth individual scream coming about. The women and children are freaking out. They ask what it is, and they have no idea. They lock the doors, load their shotguns, and wait. A Texas Story Part 3. The easiest thing they could was haul ass in the car when it started, except it was moonless, and it was a tricky way driving down the mountain on a paveless road. This being the early 80s, there were no cell phones or GPS or anything of that sort available to a blue-collar family. They were going to have to wait it out. My aunt starts praying. The kids are quiet. My uncle and cousin take watch on different sides. By the time 30 minutes passed, they heard something like 20 different screams, all bellowing at once in some demented symphony. They tried looking in the forest through the windows to catch a look of someone, but they couldn't see anyone. Well, they couldn't see anyone at the edge of the forest. With it being so close, they kept questioning where the hell it was coming from. They wondered this until they stopped looking at the actual forest area and looked up at the trees. That's when they saw it. Standing on the branches were people moving up and down, jumping from tree to tree. They blended in with the night, with the trees and leaves themselves. Little light reflections sometimes shined off their eyes, even when no light passed over them, and despite it being completely dark outside. My uncle got fed up with this, despite being religious and afraid he wasn't going to take this torment. He opened the door once, fired his shotgun in the air. The sound roared, and it momentarily silenced the screaming things dancing on the trees. He yelled at them in both English and Spanish for them to leave them the hell alone before closing the door and barring it. The sudden silence was a brief respite. The people in the trees vanished, but they were still there. And that's when they changed their tactics. They waited for about 15 minutes after they went silent before something happened again.
Is this being continued? I'm really anxious to know what happens.
I've been screen capping and saving since yesterday. Great stories. What happened to the Texas story?
I have some spooky stories. Here's one. English is not my native language. Be me, Mexican Anon. Be part of the army for at least 7 years. Patrolling and being stationed at bases most of the time, really shitty. Trying to apply to a different branch many times, similar to Spec Ops or Special Forces but shittier because Mexico. Be accepted and assigned my first mission and new unit. We are tasked to survey an area that was used as lab to cook hardcore drugs up in the mountains. Place was raided and dismantled a few years ago, but as always happens they seem to be back as it's a good spot. A small unit of 5 must watch the area and report back if we spot cartel activity. They always cook late night, however we must survey the area all night from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. There are 2 locations that need to be watched during those hours, a structure previously used as the lab and the main path they used to get there, both built by cartels. Sergeant stays at camp, recording and reporting activity, and the other 2 survey those 2 areas from 7 to 7, next day the other 2 rotate and survey. Night 4 of 7 till next patrol comes, nothing at all, bored AF, my expectations for this unit were too high. Surveying the structure mentioned from a safe distance, about 2 a.m., radio checks each hour. Guy surveilling the main path calls in, says he got something. Guy surveilling asks to change radio channel so they can chat privately. A couple minutes passes and Sergeant says he is sending the other 2 as backup. I am puzzled and confused, asked why and if we should expect combat. Sergeant says it is protocol. I don't recall that protocol. As far as I know we should just watch and report. About an hour or so the other guy arrives, I continue the surveillance while he randomly checks the surroundings. The night passes, there is nothing to report. Night 5 of 7, I'm staying at camp. Night 6 of 7 I'm surveying the structure again, late night around 3 to 4 a.m. Forest goes dead silent. Hear some noises, whispers, tree leaves breaking. I feel something is watching me. I better check it. I'm up in a tree on a platform installed by the previous team. We use a rope ladder to get in and down. We are not supposed to use our flashlight during the night so we don't reveal our position. I'm trying to see what is that making that noise with just my eyes. Whispering and movement increases below, now I can even distinguish some words, something like perhaps we should. And some creepy jiggling. I am shitting my pants at this point, it is not wildlife. I yell I am military and have a gun, I have permission to use lethal force etc. Voices just laugh in a creepy tone, they are just below the tree. Fuck it, I'm using my flashlight, I need to see what I'm dealing with. I point my flashlight to where the voices should be and I can see shadows moving really fast away from the light. Keep trying to reach them with the light, hear a whistle and a hey coming from the opposite side I am looking at. Point my flashlight. See a creepy man smiling at me, he is as pale as a paper sheet, he is really tall, his eyes are sunk deep in his sockets, it almost looks like he had no eyes. As I am pointing the flashlight from his toes to head he just vanishes. Noses stop completely but the forest is still silent. I'm so scared I can't even move. I managed to use the radio. I am so fucked I can barely speak. Sergeant notices it immediately and says we are on our way. They arrive and help me get to the camp, surveillance is cancelled. I am feeling very exhausted but no way in hell I am sleeping. No one asks what I saw or what happened, they just tell me to rest and that we will be gone from there soon. I am able to get some sleep at dawn. Night 7 of 7 I am staying at camp, surveillance is resumed like nothing happened last night. Next day the other team arrives at camp, Sergeant talk and exchange information. We leave, walk for several hours till we reach the pickup location, we are transported to main base. The other guys just talked about normal shit, as I'm new I'm afraid and hesitant to ask about the incident. 6 months later, I get to know 2 guys from the same unit, they were not part of the same surveillance operation. We are at a bar talking so I tell them what happened and their opinion. They do not look surprised at all. They basically explain me that it is common in that kind of operations to see weird shit. When the army raids their crops, labs, training camps, houses etc., they often report similar things. According to them cartels pay huge amounts to shamans or witches alike to protect their lands from the army to keep them away and to know when the army or police is on their asses. I cannot fully believe that, but here it is often talked among the military. At this point I have heard many similar stories. Yes, they are a thing here and come in many ways. Most of them are just religious sects or cults, but there are also cartel cultists. Though their activity has decreased, I have heard horrific stories. The closest contact I had with an evil cult was after a raid in a safe house they were using. We were just there watching the place before the forensics arrive. There was a fucked up smell in the whole place. A buddy says, "Come here to see Anon." A whole room full of human bones, animal remains, and things I couldn't identify. Everything was placed around a big pot. There were fresh human remains. It appeared they were removing the bones from a fresh corpse. I later found it is a voodoo religious practice called palo mayombe. It consists of creating an entity through a religious ritual of some sort, and you need to make your spirit stronger each time, so you add human or animal bones to the pot. Pretty fucked up. Are cultists easy to put down, or is all that hoodoo bull legit? I don't have many references as far as combat goes. But when it comes to getting caught, they are unbelievable fucking lucky. During a debrief about checkpoints, what to look at, who to stop and check, they were using some examples on how cartels go through those checkpoints several times, despite being on wanted list, having drugs on them, or sometimes literal human remains. All of those times they were not stopped. K9s didn't smell anything. Despite all controls, protocols, and shit, they somehow go through the main gate. Have you ever fought using fork or spoon? No, I haven't. Some do use some kind of blessed object or totem, if that is what you mean. Here's another one. I'll try to sum it up as it is long. Be me patrolling near a beach and watching over tourists. Even cartel respect the tourists that buy their drugs, so all is calm and easy. We can even chill for some time. We receive a call. A missing military official with a military vehicle has not reported in, is not responding, and is late. A huge search is deployed where the official went and surrounding area. It is difficult. There are many ways and roads to look. We receive a call. He was found by a local and was reported to the police. We still struggle to find the exact place. The whole area is like a maze. Military official was unconscious over the horn. A taxi driver heard the horn and went to check. The whole scene was suspicious. No shooting, no signs of combat, and the official didn't crash. The vehicle was just there, like stationed. Besides, it more than 2 hours for someone to find him. Taxi driver looked somehow off. We suspect official was drugged, poisoned, or something like that. We inquire police officers and taxi driver, who looks anxious, but nothing comes of it, only that people avoid taking that road. We question taxi driver and police on what it took so long for someone to find him, as he was just there in the middle of the road. There are many roads like it and are transit. Taxi driver says no one goes near there ever. The place is cursed or some shit. Police didn't deny it, just kind of avoided the talk. Military office is taken to base and the whole case is dismissed as a health issue. Days after, it is my day off. Go to downtown to eat some decent food and look around. I'm in restaurant small talking with the waitress about work and mentioned what happened couple days ago. She told me the whole story. There in that road there is a sideway to a water plant with a pump extracting water from a deep well. According to the legend, someone owned that land and built the plant. Somehow the owner made a pact with a demon or devil. No one know what the deal was about, but since then the water plant has never stopped pumping water. No one knows how the plant operates, as there are no power lines connected to it, and the whole place is fenced and closed. No one works there, yet you can hear a metallic-like sound all the time. It is supposed to be the water pump working or something, pumping water like an old water pump. People started to go missing near the plant, sometimes found dead. She mentioned that whatever is in that plant likes to mess around with people. Many locals and tourists that have gone near that plant or road are attacked and later present a form of physical or mental impairment. Perfectly healthy people being turned into retards or having their legs or limbs paralyzed. At this point I'm really interested on the story and want to learn more. Go back at main base and try to get information about the military official and his status. He is being transferred to the capital for further medical examination. He is fine but has facial paralysis, maybe because of a head injury, and he will need therapy. No way it is a coincidence. I tell everything to a buddy and agree to check the place. Couple of weeks we move our day off. Go to the road and supposed water plant during the day. Be in the same road, everything goes silent, like off silent. The jungle is always alive, full of sounds. It feels really off but decide to continue. Find a side dirt road that goes deep in the jungle. It must be it, we walk it for some meters. Everything is still quiet. Hear a constant metallic screeching, like old machinery. Oh shit, walk a little more, see a fence and structure. Noise is louder now. We just check from the distance, it seems old, no power lines or traces of people being around for a long time. The jungle eats everything within some days, however the place hasn't been touched by nature either. Be looking around, and trying to peek a little. Metallic sound stops completely, me and buddy don't say anything. Look at each other, a dreadful sensation takes over us. We noped out of there as far as we could. We didn't see anything, but somehow felt we needed to get out of there for our lives. Go to main base, basically wasting our day off. Research a little more about the water plant. I find weird stuff, like a water company owning that plant. It is the only plant they own. The owner should be over 80 years old. Didn't dare to go there again. Another one in case someone is interested. 2017 huge earthquake hits the country. Several buildings collapsed completely or partially. There are people trapped in some. We are deployed to help in SAR of trapped people. All from the start the whole population was providing help and tried to rescue people trapped. Although this was seen very positive, it actually was harmful. Trying rescues without the proper knowledge, moving debris up and down, caused some buildings to collapse again or people trapped to be crushed. Second days of SAR operations and we bring in heavy machinery as there are tons of debris to be removed, and at some point, it will be used to clean the whole collapsed buildings until all chances of rescuing people have been exhausted. Usually, people distrust the government and think we will use the heavy machinery where people might be trapped, and things escalate. Some people try to revolt, and some soldiers are even attacked. Despite trying to explain them, they just not fucking listen. We don't let them trespass as they can cause the buildings to collapse again, and noise prevents SAR to hear people that might still alive. This people are fucking stupid. See an old lady in the restricted area near a building partially collapsed. She seems disoriented and confused, sad and worried at the same time. I think is someone whose family is still missing or tapped and get to her. I'm nice to her and tell she can't be there, she can get hurt or worse. I think she managed to get in when people were arguing and revolting outside the restricted area. I'm walking her out when she starts to weep. The moment I touch her shoulder to try to comfort her, a sensation of sadness and sorrow take over me. A couple of tears fall from my eyes. I think the whole situation is very emotional. She didn't say anything. I walked her out of the area. I asked if there is someone that can take care of her. She just walks out to the crowd. Days later, the body of an old lady is found in the building I saw the other lady days ago. She died trying to protect her toddler grandson, but both were crushed. Most of bodies found were similar to those I see when the body is being taken out and clean of debris. It is the same old lady. Feel like shit for walking her out the area. A short one, non-commando related. Me still live with parents. Arrive home late at night, don't remember where I went but I was tired. Don't see anyone up, mom, dad or sister. Sister is in her 17 to 18, goes out quite often. Too tired to see TV or internet, go to sleep. Around 2 to 3 a.m., I'm awakened by my mom. She is crying. She is not just crying, she sounds terrible, like she has received bad news. The only time I have heard her like this was when grandpa died. I don't know how to explain it, but something about her tone made me quickly worry. She is not only crying, she is saying no, no, this can't be. I immediately think of my sister. This is Mexico, remember, she could have been kidnapped or worse. There is no other relative alive for which she should react that way. Jump out of bed and go to mom's room. She is asleep. I asked what happened. She doesn't understand. Go check sister, she is asleep. I turn on the light, she tells me to fuck off. WTF, I swear I heard mom still while walking down the stairs. Explain them what I hear, and they tell me it was probably a dream. I guess it was that, but I'm not really sure. Go back to sleep. 15 to 20 minutes later, trying to sleep. Hear a giggle that soon turns into a loud laugh. Whoever or whatever is laughing sounds big. It also sounds not natural, like a mechanic voice, a speaker, or something replicating that sound. Hear sister calling me. Go downstairs, mom and sister heard it too, dad is on a trip. Stay up the whole night wondering what the hell was that. We live in an urban area, neighbors are close by. Next day we asked neighbors, but they didn't hear or know anything.
Let me start off by saying, I hate role-playing threads in /x/ and you can choose to believe this or not. Story is set over a period of 20 years. Me live in small rural area in Oklahoma between Tulsa and Bartlesville. County has been experiencing weird sighting of black triangles and cloaked people walking down rural roads. Cows disappearing and blood and organs being found in fields. Live on ranch with livestock. B14. Chilling at house at night during the summer playing Super Nintendo. This was early 96, so N64 was not released yet. Game room was sunroom that overlooked land, and in the distance, if it was clear, you could see the Tulsa skyline that was about 30 miles away. Get up to go get a RC Cola. Walk into sunroom and see what looks like people by our pool on the bottom of the hill. Mind you, our house was built on a hill to overlook our land. Oh shit, my little brothers got out again and are trying to swim at night. Leave sunroom and proceed to go out to the back deck. Start walking downstairs to pool at the bottom of the hill. Notice these figures are small and skinnier than my brothers. See baseball bat on staircase landing halfway down. Grab it. Feel my adrenaline pulsing. Walking toward pool, which feels like forever. Try to say something to the figures. Barely let out a word. They hear me. Pick not related. They turn around and stare at me. They have large eyes and gray skin. Start to hear static in my head. Feels odd. Start counting them, there are 4. Try to raise bat. My arms feel like they are jelly. Hearing what seems like distant whispers in my head. We are not here to hurt you unless you mess with us. Starting to feel like I am congested. Start slowly walking to 60 feel to the pool. Bat is raised, might be able to get a good swing in on them. Try to swing, miss the creature. Start feeling weak. Sit down and accept my fate. Hear footsteps on the concrete around the pool and hear the gate move. Look around, they are walking away. See the light from the TV in the sunroom. See one of my younger brother in his pajamas lit up by the light from the TV. Sit there for a few minutes as I regain my strength. Slowly walk up back to the house. Feel warmth on my face. My nose is bleeding. Walk to bathroom when I get to the house. Washing my face off and contemplating on waking my dad and stepmother up. My younger brother walks up behind me and says, "You saw them too? They have been coming around here for the last few months, that's why I draw the blinds when at evening now. A few months back I was reading Hank the Cowdog and I looked up and one of them was staring at me from my window and I felt a loud buzzing in my head, then it just disappeared. I look at him and the dots of his odd behavior are adding up in my head." My brother continues to say, "They mostly walk around outside the windows and try to peek into the windows. They know we are here but they are trying no to mess with us." Does dad, and we will call her Sue, stepmom, know about this? No, I don't want to tell them, they might think I am crazy. Well, let's keep this to ourselves. I go back to the sunroom and turn off the TV and run back to my room freaked out. Lay in my bed all night until the sun rises, unable to sleep. listening for movement outside. When my father wakes me up, I tell him, "Dad, I want a rifle." His eyes light up. "What for?" "I just want to plink and walk the land with it." "Of course, son. Go to the tractor supply store and get a cheap SKS from a barrel and some ammo." Now I am prepared for these guys. Weeks go by and nothing shows up. Until a few weeks later, playing my new game Quake on DOS. Computer room is in the front of the house. The room is a computer/informal dining area with a window with the benches built right underneath it. Sun is going down in the Oklahoma sky. Anxiety starts setting in. Draw blinds. Play about an hour or so and start feeling an odd feeling on my back. My back is to the window. Stop playing for a second. Start listening to the sounds, hear the DOS theme playing, and then I hear what sounds like movement in the bushes outside the window. Gather some bravery. Peek behind the curtains. See two large all-black eyes staring at me. Panic mode enabled. Run from the window while yelling. My dad gets up and I hear him running. He comes into the room with a loaded 1911. "What is it, son?" "There is something outside." He walks out the front door and I hear, "Holy fucking shit." He runs back in and locks all the doors and draws the blinds all over the house. "Everyone get to my office." We do, and my dad walks in a few minutes later with a few sleeping bags and a few rifles. And some food. I hear him try to call his co-workers. My father is a deputy, and tries to call my stepmom who is out of town for a conference. No service. Dad comes in and rounds up all of 5 of us. I have 4 brothers. Tell us that what is out there looks like a gray and begins to explain to us what that is. Tell us all to stay in this room all night. Dad randomly patrols the house. Brothers fall asleep. I fight it but end up passing out around 1:30. Sorry it's so long. Wake up because I think I hear knocking on the window. Look around and see all my family is asleep. Even my dad is asleep with a chair in front of the locked door, hearing rain, assuming it's the rain on the windows. Knock, knock, knock. It's coming from the window. Look out and see nothing. Hear cans fall from the direction of the garage. Dad is alert, locked and loaded. My brothers wake up crying. I forgot to fucking lock the garage. My dad screams out. Dad hand me SKS and tell me that he will lead. We slowly walk the length of the house to the garage. Hear movement in the garage. Sounds like cans are being thrown about. Dad reaches for the door handle and quietly unlocks the door. Here we go. JPEG. Open the door right as lightning flashes. Door swings open. Garage is lit up, the door is open. Dad turns on the lights. The wind blew the door open and we're scattering cans around the garage. Woo.mp3. Go close the door, look outside and see something run past the door about 100 feet away as another bolt of lightning flashes. Close the door and tell my dad. Start hearing soft buzzing. Start hearing slamming on the garage door. Then I hear my brothers screaming from across the house. Dad and I run toward them as we lock both garage doors. Run to the office, something is slamming on window. Tell everyone to get out and we all run toward the master bath with a walk-in closet with all our stuff. Banging goes on for another hour in various places throughout the outside of the house, doors/windows and walls, until all we hear is the rain and distant thunder. About 5 a.m. my dad and I start turning on all the lights in the house and all we can outside. Patrol the house and wait until the sun rises. Sun rises. We peek outside and nothing is there, it's a dreary morning. We walk the perimeter of the house and see little footprints and my head has a Polaroid cam. Take pictures and prepare to cook breakfast. My brothers wake up scared. We reassure them and tell them it's okay. Dad tell them not to tell Mom and that we will make sure the house is safe. Fear consumes the house for the next few weeks. Nothing happens. School begins and all is well. Fast forward 2 years to when I was 16 and edgy. Working on the property and feeding the cows. Multiple cows are out in the pasture. About 10 a.m. in the morning. I walk towards the cows with my SKS slung on my back and notice they are standing by a creek bed mooing like they are lamenting something. Walk toward creek bed where the cows are standing. Smells like hospital and rotting flesh. See 3 cows mutilated and a calf fetus still with the umbilical cord attached floating in the creek. Run back to the John Deere Gator and call my dad on the walkie-talkie and tell him to call the sheriff and to come here. Flash forward an hour, deputies taking pictures and coroner looking confused. Hear a Crown Vic roll up and a few guys in slacks and button-up shirts walk up and identify themselves as Oklahoma Bureau of Investigation. Start their investigation and they call a college vet to come pick up the bodies for investigation. They drive off with the cattle bodies and we go on our way, and that night I have to stay up and patrol the property on a ATV and make sure nothing goes wrong, while my dad stays at home by the phone in case I call for help on the walkie. Be around 10 p.m., driving my ATV down a dirt road, hear a car rolling down the road. It's a all-black Crown Vic. As they drive by I notice 2 men in all black in the front. They stare at me as I wave at them as I pass. Go about a mile down the dirt road and hear a buzz just like the one I heard 2 years before. The hairs on my neck stand up and I see something slowly move across the sky and hover over a house down the road and then move on, then it shoots all the way up. I sit there in awe for 10 minutes. Hear jets in the distance. 2 jets fly over me, probably from the Air National Guard base in Tulsa. They make 2 or 3 passes. I drive on and for the rest of the night see or hear nothing. Spend the rest of my weekend with no issues. Go to school on Monday and everyone has seen the black triangle and knows what happened on our ranch at my school. People are saying it's a common occurrence, but the Air Force and the feds are keeping in quiet. It happened to me and hence why I am here without trip fagging. Flash forward 1 year. Be 17 and getting ready to graduate high school. Preparing to enter the Oklahoma National Guard. Still working on the ranch and keeping my eye out for odd things. Late evening and I am driving my beat-up 1986 Silverado with my girlfriend, who is the stereotypical 90s goth girl. Listening to Pantera on a back road in Oklahoma, being edgy and different. We stop on isolated part of my family's ranch. Start a bonfire and pull out a 12-pack of Lone Star beer. Drink some beers and get drunk. Bang a gong, we're getting it on. Looking up at the stars while the fire dies. Hear buzzing, ignore it. Hey, do you hear that? Says my GF. Yes. She looks at me, I hear it all the time at my house, I think it's just the electricity from the power lines. Feedback.jpg. Stars black out over us in the shape of a triangle. She is screaming and hurrying to put her clothes on. I put my pants on and we run to the cab of the truck. I struggle to start the truck. Crank it a few times. Finally it starts. Start hauling ass towards the road. Shifting gears like a boss. Bust through a barbed wire fence and look in my rear view mirror. See triangle slowly following us. Hauling ass down this country road trying to get to the highway to be around other cars. See storm following behind the triangle. About a mile till the highways. GF screaming for me to go faster, not in a good way. It's raining so hard right now. Pushing my truck to the limit. See bridge I have to cross is flooded. I tell my GF to hang on and I make a sharp left turn into a field and check my rear view mirror and see the triangle is still following us. Make sharp right turn back onto road and see the highway. Relief.jpg. Get on highway. Still hauling ass. See blue and red light on other side of the highway. Cars on the other side of the road are stopped and people are staring in awe at this triangle. I cut through the median toward a few stopped sheriff cars. They are in awe. The craft stops and hits a crazy amount of speed and flies off. The deputy looks at me and says, "Hey, you're Deputy Anon's son, right?" "Yep." "Was that thing chasing you?" "Yes, sir." "Holy fuck, kid, from where?" "Near Ramona." "That's like 6 miles, kid." I am still in shock, my GF is crying. I drop my GF off at her house in the shadow of a mesa in a trailer park, poor rural area. Drive home and my dad has been told that I was being chased. He listens and tells me I did the right thing. Go to school the next day, that's all they can talk about. I graduate high school and go into the National Guard. Fast forward to 2003 when I get home from Iraq and I am going to college and working part-time as a corrections officer at the local jail. Get home from Iraq. World is different. Killed a few Iraqis. Go to my part-time job at the sheriff's. Get moved from the jail to patrol. Badass.jpg. Having a typical boring evening shift, sitting in my patrol car listening to classic rock. Eric Clapton.mp3. Dispatch calls, 843, we have a call about a person hanging around a ranch at etc. etc. Go to call because I am unit 843 and it's probably just a bored kid wandering someone's property. Starting to fucking rain. Get to residence, put on my rain jacket. Fucking dumbass call, I say to myself. Walk to house, knock on door. Sheriff's Department. Door cracks open, it's near the bar, short little fellow, probably a kid that's wandered onto my property. LOL, okay, this is a easy call. Hearing thunder in the distance, I can hear some AC/DC coming from my car subtly. Walk toward barn, my radio is starting to squeak and get choppy. Fucking rain, I say to myself. Hear footstep near the barn. Hey kid, it's the sheriff's department, I am gonna need you to come with me so we can take you home. Walking stops. Hello? Kid, it's the sheriff's department. Walk around to the side where I hear the stepping and pull out my mallite because the sun is going down fast as the rain picks up. Huge fucking black eyes reflect back at me. My eyes are watering and my head is buzzing. My radio is making a moaning sound and my head is buzzing. I hear it walk toward me, I see it walking toward me, and I pull my 1911 out of the holster and pull the hammer back with all my strength. You missed with the stick, you're going to miss with that, rings in my head. I put my head down. Buzzing stops and I look up and nothing is there. I put the hammer back on my 911 and my radio is back to normal chatter. 843? 843? We have reports of a large triangle near your call, are you okay? 843? I get on the radio, I am okay. Dispatch is going nuts, we called your number for the past 5 minutes. My radio went to shit because of the storms. Dispatch, cancel officer, non-responding call. Hear like 5 patrol cars rolling down the road to my position with sirens and lights. Walk back to the house and tell the lady it was just a deer from the front, they look like kids. All my co-workers are worried as they turn around and drive back. 843, we have a civil disturbance at address. I am on it. Driving the 7 miles to my next call. I hear various radio calls about the sighting of a black triangle and focus on my call. Get to the call and it's a familiar place. It's where my GF from high school lives with her parents. I knock on the door, I hear yelling. The door opens, it's her mom. Oh hey Anon. Someone put you in a deputy outfit, or did they think you were sane enough to be a cop? Ma'am, I don't have time for this shit. She tell me my ex is having violent fits and outburst, and I walk toward her room in the trailer and hear yelling and screaming. I open the door and see her thrashing on the ground and drop to my knees and try to calm her. Anon, they know who you are. Who? They doll the things, we saw the triangle and they are trying to get to you with me. I look at her mom and she tell me she was diagnosed with bipolar depression last year. What do you want me to do, ma'am? As I look to her. Take her to the hospital, maybe a few weeks in a padded cell will help her. Call dispatch and use the I have a 5150, was just Cali police slang, but now it's just police slang. Handcuff her and put her in the back of my squad car and begin to drive her to Bartlesville, nearest city. She is talking to me and telling me that they know my younger brothers are my weakness. My radio is going off with reports of multiple F-16s flying over the area and a black triangle showing up after they RTB and then they scramble them again. Get to hospital. Leave her there and continue on with my shifts the next few weeks. Get a phone call at 3 a.m. 4 weeks later. Hey Anon, your ex hung herself in the hospital, she left and not saying that you were being watched and they are after you. Everyone laughs it off. I don't and tell my father and he looks at me. Son, they are here every night outside and your stepmom is in denial. This was the 90s and early 2000s, we have Polaroids of them but they are at my father's house, I am not sure where they are and I also have a few other things too. Dad is literally sleeping 4 hours a night and walking the house when he is up at night. My stepmom is taking Xanax and working her rounds at the local rural healthcare clinic like nothing is happening. Fast forward 2 years and I am finished with my associates and I am working full time at the sheriff's department as a corporal. No happenings lately. One day during someone's shift they call me and tell me that they found a girl that was missing naked in the woods rocking back and forth. She has been missing for 1 week and was found by a few hunters. The girl was talking about big eyes and gray little men. Investigators are treating this as a sexual assault because they see signs of traumatic sexual activity and other bruises. Take her to the hospital and Homeland Security took over a rape case and took us off the case. Homeland Security goes to our headquarters and starts taking reports and evidence from every call about cattle mutilations and black triangles and odd sighting. Then tell us all any future calls need to be notified with the Homeland Security office in Oklahoma City. Fight breaks out between feds and sheriff's deputies in motor pool. They keep screaming Patriot Act as we fight. The man one actually pulls his sidearm on us to make us all stop. He says if we continue all of us will be stripped of our post certifications and blacklisted from policing for the rest of our lives. I fall into a deep depression and drink about 8 to 12 cans of Lone Star every fucking night. Become a functioning alcoholic. Work my shifts, all they are meth heads and domestics. One day around 2007. I was working the night shift and it was 1:30 at night and I was chilling on a back road taking a piss. Feels goodman.jpg. Hear the piano exit of Layla playing over the radio. Nice clear Oklahoma night, no worries. Hear a thumping in the distance. I have heard this before. Digging deep in my memories. Thump, 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 thump. It's getting closer. That's a fucking Black Hawk heli. Get in car, turn of lights as it gets closer. Heli flies over. Leave all my lights off and begin to follow heli. Following heel for about 20 minutes. Our beats are fucking huge. Heli lands in a wooded opening near a nice new house. What the fuck? See multiple black SUVs and a lone sheriff's car with the deputy sitting beside it looking like he is being scolded by some Homeland uniformed officers. I turn on my driving lights and wait for the deputy to pull out so I can talk to him. Deputy comes out and I wave him down and he tells me to follow him. We drive about 2 miles away and make sure we are not followed. He tell me that he got a phone call from our LT about a person peeping in the windows of a house and went to investigate. He told me he went to look and about 5 minutes later some DHS guys rolled up and told him he had no jurisdiction at this case and detained him for a while. I connected the dots in my mind. DHS is there in less than 5 minutes and uses a fucking helicopter. They must have a place they operate from in the county and they must be listening to our calls. Finish shift and go to my father. Tell him what I think. He says, yep, that's the issue, we are meddling in something they don't want us to know. Lay low for a few years and just be officer friendly. Continue to 2010. B 2010. Met a woman and married her, she works as a general surgeon in Tulsa. I am still bebopping around my sheriff job wearing my khaki and my cowboy hat, common deputy outfit in OK. Working my beat, it's raining and I am thinking about quitting this job and moving to Tulsa and working the urban beat. Sitting at a railroad track while In Bloom by Nirvana comes on, I think back to being a teen and think of my GF who killed herself and all the crazy moments. Dispatch to 843. This is 843, we have a missing child case at address reports of the little girl following a fireball. It's around the 4th of July and fireworks are shot off a lot in the country. I put my Crown Vic in drive and make my way towards the address. I am greeted by one of my younger brothers who is now a deputy and the parent. She is talking about how the whole house lit up and an orange ball shot through the house and he daughter started to follow it and she points in the general direction towards the forest. I look at my brother and he looks at me and he has a face that I have not seen in about 15 years, a face of fear. We tell her that we will go into the woods once another deputy comes and is able to stay with her in case the child comes back. Third deputy shows up and me and my brother turn on our mag lights and walk into the forest. We walk about 300 feet into the forest and our radios go nuts and my cell phone battery dies as I try to make a call to dispatch. Fuck it, I yell to my brother as we go deeper into the forest. I start hearing help. It sounds like it's echoing and I whisper to my brother, you hear that? Yeah. It's not a voice, well it is but it's in our heads. Help. Help, it sounds like a distorted child's voice. Our flashlights die. Fuck, these are fresh batteries. Blasts over the radio before it beeps that it's dead. Help. We both sit in the forest and wait for our eyes to adjust to the darkness. BTW, I went to Ranger School around 2006 for a promotion. Help. I pull out my SIG 226, 9mm if you want to know. I whisper, let's move up. We move up about 200 feet. Help. Start to hear a soft buzzing. I hear actual crying about 500 feet to my front. Help me, Anon. I look to my left and my brother is right beside me. Why did call for help? That was not me, but it said your name. Help me, Anon. Move up, brother. I whisper. Getting closer to the crying. Right on top of the crying. The girl is in a dried creek bed. Bloody and cut up. I jump into the creek bed. She whispers to me, they are watching us. Hey Anon. Something is up here with Mel. Run bro if you have tool. Help me. I hear my bro start booking it back to the tree line, and now in my mind I hear help and a buzzing. I cannot climb out of the creek bed because it's about 10 feet up. Walk with one hand holding my pistol and the other holding the girl. Hearing leaves move above the creek bed. That you, bro? Silence. Start hearing a clicking noise. Hear something drop behind me. Turn around real fast and it's a rock. Turn around again and hear help. Start booking it to a place where I can run up the creek bed. Clicking sounds are falling behind me. Still hear running behind me. Run about 500 feet down, run up the creek bed. Start running towards the tree line. An orange ball of light flies past me. I start to hear running towards the front of me and I see 10 flashlights and I start running towards them and notice they are 10 deputies with AR-15s. Come on Anon. I am running the fastest I have ever been in my fucking life. Help. Reach the line with the deputies with the AR-15s and their lights start to fail and their radios beep, and then the night goes dark and a humming goes over us and blocks the stars. 6 orange balls fly up towards the craft and it speeds away right as 2 F-16s fly over. We all walk towards the squad cars and hear a helicopter on the horizon and it flies over and places a spotlight where we were, and 3 DHS SUVs pull up. Blah blah Patriot Act blah blah. They have those little radiator detectors and they beep when they scan us with them, and they run towards the forest and begin looking. Go through SOP and make it home at 8 AM and crack open a nice cold RC and rest, but only for a short time. My wife and I had 2 children and ended up leaving me for a banker in OKC. B 2014, living in a nice trailer in the country on my family's ranch and still working at the sheriff's department. B one night I am watching some shitty late night variety show. Hear a knocking on a window. I didn't hear anyone drive up. Grab SIG. Check window and nothing is there. Power goes out. Shit.jpg. I got some Gen 3 NVGs from the Federal Police Aid Program and I kept them because we had no use for them. Put them on, my dark world turns green. Walk to my room and put on boots and find a kin silencer for my SIG. Gonna fucking end this. Quietly make my way outside. It's eerily quiet. Check my perimeter. Change things up and go the other way. Knock knock from the other side of the trailer. Make my way quietly toward the other side. See gray man trying to peek in my window. Yell, help MEII. Thing looks at me and screeches and starts to run off. I give chase, not thinking to fire at it. Full of anger. Been fucking with my life for the past almost 20 years. This motherfucker can run, speed up as I attempt to catch up to it. I am gonna kill you motherfucker. Creature is running towards the ranch house. I see the outside lights of the house as the hill comes into view. Odd, my house is without power. Running toward the creature and all of a sudden it runs under security light and blinds me. Take off my NVGs and try to readjust, start to see spots in my vision. Fucking shit. Vision comes back and I am looking at the pool. The creature is looking back at me. Feel my pockets and feel a baton. Walk toward the pool. I flick it out. If I lay one lick on you better never come back. Those empty soulless eyes just stare back at me and I hear buzzing and my nose bleeding. Extend baton. Walk towards creature. Whack whack. Land 2 on its head and it lets out this blood-curdling scream. Then I kick it into the pool. Hear it struggling to keep above water as it slowly swims toward the stairs. Walk to the stairs and spit in its face. Land one good whack on its head again and then feel a burning in my body and hear a buzzing. The lights go out and I cannot move. 4 creatures show up and drag the wounded one away. The craft flies off and I collapse my baton and hear my dad running down the steps. Anon, you okay? Yep. Walk home. Sleep. Fast forward to 2016. I am now remarried and still working at the sheriff's, but we have had no odd cases reported in 2 years. Also, I will post Polaroids in a few days once I find them to back my story up.
Well, I guess since this is becoming more of a spooky camping story thread, I'll post mine. Since it's kind of long, I'm not going to green text. I was in the Boy Scouts until about 6th grade, and the summer before I quit, I went to a summer camp in a muggy Florida marsh savanna area. If you've ever been to Florida in the summer, you know it gets ridiculously hot and humid and rainy, so the summer camp was a complete disaster weather-wise. But me and a few of my friends didn't like it for a very different reason. Now, each camp had a colossal pavilion in the center surrounded by assorted palmettos and tents. These tents were A-frame-style permanent tents atop rotting pallets, which made the whole camp look like an abandoned military base. These A-frames were made of disgusting 20-plus-year-old tarps that insulated really well. This was a damn nightmare in South Florida, because moisture plus heat would stay in each tent and make each night a living hell for its residents. Add mosquitoes the size of your ballsack, and the entire campout was a disaster. Our scoutmaster was a giant D-bag, so he made us earn a minimum of 10 merit badges that week, so that meant we had to attend 10 classes to earn them. These classes took place in screened pavilions around the main mess hall at the center of the giant campground, with some of the bigger merit badges whittling, archery next to the mess hall, and the smaller, less important ones birdwatching, electricity were only accessed by a single dirt trail and a 10-minute walk. I'm a pretty natural leader, so I led one of those inner circle kind of clubs within my troop, called the Blind Koalas or some other stupid name, so we could have a koala bear with glasses and a cane flying over our camp like the little jokesters we were. I convinced my fellow koalas to take 10 super easy merit badges so we could get done early, and we snuck our Game Boy Advances into camp so we could go hang out in the woods and play our new Pokemon games. Ruby and Sapphire had just come out. My friends were all for it, so we did just that. We snuck out really freaking far into the woods outside the camp, off the regular path, and into the savannah. We made it out at about 3 o'clock, but before we started to play our game where no one could find us, we saw a really rundown house. When I say house, I don't mean a cabin or even a concrete block where the Rangers live. I mean full-on chimney and porch suburban home just plopped in the middle of the damn woods like a bad Photoshop, with no roads leading up to it. This place would have looked perfect had it not looked like Father Time took a dump on it. It was kind of blocked by some pine trees, so we didn't see it coming out. We went up to the window on its porch and peeked inside. Boxes piled above eye level filled the entire house. No furniture or anything, just boxes of what appeared to be magazines, newspapers, and other printed material. The only other thing besides those boxes was a broken wheelbarrow leaning against a window on the opposite side. We were about to open the door to go inside, no matter how scared we were, because we wanted to check out those boxes. Then the most blood-curdling noise ever came from the house. The only way I could describe it is like someone twanging the piano wire from the inside of the piano, so it came out twang, 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 twang. It was so unnatural and unnerving, we booked it the hell out of there and ran to the mess hall. Apparently we had been gone for 2 hours, but it felt like 5 minutes. The sun hadn't even changed in the sky. They kept saying it was 5:30, but the sun was barely where it would be at 3. It didn't go down until 8 that night for some reason. It got so much worse though. When it got dark that night, it got really freaking dark. At 8, the sun just barely disappeared over the horizon. At 9, you wouldn't have remembered what the sun looked like. We kept fire going and trying to calm our nerves after that house we found yelled at us. Eventually, we had enough Slim Jims and ghost stories, and we went to our grotty older frames. I was kind of fat back then, so I was eaten alive by mosquitoes every night, and I had placed a mosquito net over my cot to save me from their wretched onslaught. It did minimal amounts of protecting and acted as more of a crappy curtain. I tried going to sleep, but it was just so damn hot in the A-frame I had to remove everything but my boxer briefs to stay cool. About 2 in the morning, I think I hear a loud thong from the next tent over. I jolt upright and tangle myself in my net and scramble on the rotting pallet to free myself. I fall through and fall into the conveniently placed ant pile underneath the pallet. I manage to save myself before I get eaten, but I was so groggy and so much adrenaline through my bloodstream, I barely knew what was going on before I heard another loud thonk a foot away. The frame collapsed on top of me and my bunkmate, and we crawled out from underneath. I looked next door to the other frames and watched them fall like dominoes, each with a sickening thonk as the pillars holding them up fell down. I could barely make out a tall figure in red and white dart from behind one of the tents to another, but I couldn't tell. It was too early in the morning to make a positive ID. It was chaos. My whole troop had collapsed to frames, and the entire pillar to erect the damn thing was broken. The piece to slide into the pallet has snapped clean off. Now these frames were old, but it's still pretty difficult to break a 4-inch by 4-inch block of wood in two with one swipe. Some of these stories aren't even skinwalkers. One of them is just about a guy getting chased by some wolves or something. I ran out in my boxer briefs to make sure everyone was okay, and we told our D-bag scoutmaster someone had knocked down every frame in the camp. We marched down to the camp ranger and told him, and he said he'll go out and help us find the guy who did it. About an hour later, the camp director drives up in a Jeep with some short fat kid in a black ninja outfit in the back. He tells us the kid confessed to knocking them over and it's a mystery solved. Everyone came forth and called bullcrap, mostly because the agreed upon profile for our suspect was a tall, probably 6'5" or so lean guy in red and white. The ranger waved it off as some kind of joke and said he had a confession and he was going to get everything sorted out by morning. We tried finding the house again the next day and couldn't find it. I was about to just shrug and say screw it when my friend who was in the first frame to get knocked over came up to me at dinner on the last night. He was kind of nervous to talk to me and hasn't really been himself, and he told me he smelled something really freaking crap before he woke up that morning. He looked up and saw the figure staring at him, and he thought it was the weirdest damn thing. It was a person. It wasn't a spooky skeleton or anything, but the guy was really freaking tall, with lanky old arms, and smelled like straight up death and crap. So much he said he could see stink lines coming off of him. He said the guy was obviously quite old and gray, but the weirdest thing was that he was wrapped up in bandages and a headdress, like a damn mummy. A mummy in South Florida. I laughed it off and just told him it was just some hole screwing with us. He just sighed and continued to eat his glue. The weirdest shit didn't start until we came home from camp. There were 10 people who had their tents knocked over, excluding me and my bunkmate, and out of those 10, 8 of them had burglars clean their place out while at camp. Only me and the kid who thought he saw a mummy were spared. His house burned down a month later, the fire department saying someone had thrown incendiary devices into the windows at night while they were sleeping, even though there was no broken glass or open windows. I guess the pattern here had to do with houses. Nothing has really happened to my house. I moved a couple months after dropping scouts, and the last I heard my old house was still there. I honestly have no idea what the hell any of it means, but it's creepy as hell to think about. No one I know from that troop is still in it. They dropped it around the same time as I did. I heard we all dropped a ton of weight too. None of us are fat anymore, and I've been told I look too skinny now. Did we drop scouts for the same reason? Maybe. I have no idea what to expect from it or this story, and I know it's crappy as hell to end a story like that, but the only other creepy thing is that I find ants in my stuff all the time, and it's annoying as hell. I like to think it has something to do with this, but in reality, it's probably another screwed up thing to deal with in life. I get bit a lot still, though, and I have to cover myself with band-aids so I won't itch them all the time.
I'll start. Be me, 12-year-old Coomer. Attending Catholic school with a playground that had lots of trees, like a little forest. I get detention one day and 2 of my friends stay with me to rake leaves in the forest. It is now 6-ish p.m. and we're almost done, so we start playing around throwing pebbles at each other. I see one of my friends hiding behind a tree and grab a fistful of gunk to shove it down his pants. As I approach him, I hear my 2 friends call out to me, and I am weirded out because the only people left at school are a couple of teachers and the basketball team. I turn around and start hearing leaves rustling behind me, and I make a run for it. Spot my 2 friends and yell for help. One starts running away and the other looks like he's gonna shit his pants. I don't look back and keep running, eventually catching up to him and pull him by the arm to come with me. Other kid starts yelling for help. Basketball team and gym teacher run over to me and I black out from fear and exhaustion. Wake up in the arms of some teacher and I get laid down in the infirmary bed. My head is still throbbing and I ask for water, but the teacher leaves me there alone and gets the fuck back outside. Mom and Dad come pick me up and Dad stays in school while my mother drives me back home. Monday comes and everyone is talking about what happened. Shitpants kid didn't come to school. I asked around and another friend told me he was sick. Get called to the mother principal's office along with the kid who ran away. My mom and his dad are there too. The nun starts apologizing to both our parents and almost begs them not to sue. I'm in the dark up to that point because my parents had asked me what happened over the weekend and wouldn't answer my questions, just comfort me and let me sleep in their bed. The guy goes on a rant about how he pays good money for his son to go there and blah blah blah. Mom and I are asked to step outside for a moment and then we go back in. The nun says she's gonna ask us what happened. I tell her my version. She turns to the other kid and asks if he'd like to share. Kid is visibly shaken up but starts talking. He says I got separated from the 2 other boys and that they hear me scream, and as I made my way up the little hill he saw a face staring back at them popping up behind a tree. He says he then saw the thing start coming up behind the tree and he started to run, says it looked all black except the face, could have been the lighting. Nun asks him to draw the face and the kid draws some Picasso bullshit of a thing with big lips and chink eyes. Mother Share Name says that'll be all for today and that we can return to our classroom. Mom kisses me goodbye and asks me to eat lunch inside instead of playing outside. I play outside anyway. Forest has people cutting down trees and a yellow tape around it. Stay near the basketball court eating lunch with the other kid and a shit ton of kids who wanted to hear the story, and they ask dumb shit like was it Slenderman? We both exaggerate our stories and they are amazed. Couple of days go by, it's now Thursday and Shitpants shows up. He looks okay. I go up to him and ask why he didn't come to school. Says he is changing schools, probably because he made a scene at home. Ask him what happened after I fainted. Says he kept staring at the forest and describes the same chink monster my other friend drew. Says the thing just kept staring back at him even when people came to take us away. Ask gym teacher what happened that day and he says he didn't see anything at the forest, but since both my friends' stories matched up describing the thing, the mother principal got really upset and is having the trees gone for good. I get sad because I really liked the woods, I liked to climb the trees. Things return to normal. Kid's dad didn't sue. My parents take me out of there and they let me attend a regular school. Never know what happened. Mom brushes it off as kids being kids. I'm 22 now and found out my dad was really into the occult and we have similar interests because I've been reading/practicing since 20. He says it's the weirdest shit he's ever seen because we couldn't have been lying since the kids saw the same thing. Says he thinks it could have been an egregore we materialized with our collective mischief, but that the mother was convinced it was a demon and that's why she had the forest fucked over.